Hey GBA fans, welcome back to the weekly recap. We are now through week 3 of the GBA. I of course am your host, Choice CJ, and I'm joined by my good buddy Zelix. Say hello.
Sorry GBA fans, Zelix here.
And let's just hop right on into the action and go into our first game, which was between the Durham Dragons, coached by 6 Foot Hacks, aka Leo, and the Rosenradenborg, coached by Donaki. Leo brought Blaziken, Kieran Black, Donphan, Bronzong, Tapu Fini, and Reuniclus. Meanwhile, Dan brought Espeon, Frostlass, Licky Licky, Mega Absol, Magearna, and Darmanitan. The lead matchup is Tapu Fini versus Espeon, and Espeon goes on the offensive right away, going for a Calm Mind as Tapu Fini goes for Nature's Madness. This could have been a problem if Leo had not been packing the Haze, but he does have that on his Tapu Fini, goes for that immediately. Espeon wants to heal off that damage, so it goes for Morning Sun as the Tapu Fini switches into Donphan. This is an Assault Vest Donphan, max Def, so it can take on Espeon pretty easily. Does threaten it out with an EQ as Licky Licky comes in to take it pretty easily. And Dan makes an aggressive double back into the Espeon, but it unfortunately ends up taking a knockoff from that Donphan. So it's going to be at a pretty low range of HP. Luckily, the HP investment did allow it to live. He's going to save his Espeon for later, bring in the Frostlass, and the Frostlass is going to take an Ice Shard. Because this is such a especially defensive Donphan, it takes the Specs Ice Beam relatively easily and is able to kill it with knockoff. Darmanitan comes in from Dan's side and is going to click Flare Blitz a few times, but the Tapu Fini is able to switch in easily and kill it with Surf. And then the Mega Absol comes in and revenge kills with Stone Edge. Bronzong switches in for Leo, which does telegraph a potential Colbur Berry, and Absol tries to boost up with Hone Claws. It ends up dying to Gyro Balls after the Sucker Punch fails to kill the Bronzong, due in part to that Colbur Berry. Licky Licky comes in, and it wishes as Leo brings in his Kieran Black. It's a little bit of an exchange between the Kieran Black and the Licky Licky. Kieran Black does miss a Focus Blast, which is unfortunate, but a few turns later it actually crits with a Focus Blast and ends up killing, so you could say hacks for hacks. In either case, the Kieran Black does end up victorious in that exchange. After the Kieran Black goes down, the Blaziken is able to come in and facing down a weakened Espeon and a Magearna that is obviously weak to Fire. Blaziken's going to be able to pick up 2 kills, resulting in a quick 4-0 win for Leo. Very offensive, lots of powerful moves being thrown around, not too many switches going on here. Just a really straightforward, nice win for Leo.
I've been liking Leo's playing with his prep because it seems like he has a game plan going into it and it just works. And if it doesn't work, or if something changes the way that he planned for it, then he reacts to it well and has, mons that are prepared to support whatever plan he's going with if he changes halfway through. So next up, we have the LA Coq Fables, coached by Gregulator, bringing a roster of Rotom Wash, Whimsicott, Sneasel, Celesteela, Nihilego, and Zygarde, and they went up against the Newcastle Umbreon, coached by Abe, with the Mamoswine, Superior, Jirachi, Primarina, Kommo-o, and the regular Rotom. So the battle started off with Rotom versus the Nihilego. The Rotom Volt switches into the Jirachi as the Nihilego sets up a layer of Toxic Spikes. The Jirachi is able to get up a Calm Mind as a Rotom Wash comes in, taking quite a lot of damage from a Psychic, but it is able to set up a Light Screen to dampen the attacks in the following turns. Then the Rotom goes out into the Celesteela and Abe. Knowing that he's not able to deal with the Celesteela with the Jirachi, he goes into his Rotom as the Celesteela gets an Autotomize up. Now, fearing the Rotom, Greg goes into Zygarde, revealing it is a Z Crystal as the Rotom tries to trick, and it doesn't work due to the Z Crystal. Abe then sends out his Mamoswine, taking 1,000 arrows, and then sets up Rocks versus the incoming Rotom Wash, and the Mamoswine knocks it out with a knockoff. He then gets healed up with his Ayapapa Berry because the poison damage from the Toxic Spikes brings it down into range, so the Mamoswine is up to a good amount of HP. The Nihilego comes in to try to revenge, but Abe then goes into his Jirachi, showing that it'll be a great switch in, especially for the Power Gem, taking very little damage, as the Nihilego tries to set up Rocks, which it is able to get them up since the Jirachi does not attack right away but goes for a Calm Mind. And then Greg brings in his Sneasel on a predicted Psychic attack, knocks off the Jirachi for quite a lot of damage but isn't able to get the KO due to the Colbur Berry, and it gets knocked out by the Jirachi's Moonblast. Greg then sends out his Whimsicott thinking that the light screen was still up. I believe he had it clicked on the calc screen and he thought he would be able to live versus the Jirachi, and he goes for a Moonblast. However, the light screen was not actually up and the Jirachi is able to survive the Moonblast and then knock out the Whimsicott. The Nihilego comes out and is able to revenge kill the Jirachi, and then the Kamo comes in and they trade big damage, but the Kamo isn't able to take it out, and the Nihilego gets the kill on the Kamo the following turn. Abe then goes into his Superior and luckily does hit his Leaf Storm this week, knocking out the Nihilego, then sets up a Leech Seed on the incoming Celesteela, which is trying to set up an Autotomize. However, Abe's Rotom is able to weaken the Celesteela before going down, allowing Mamoswine to come in and clean up the rest of the match with Ice Shard.
So there's, I guess, a really pivotal moment in this match, and that was with the Rotom Wash versus the Mamoswine. Greg makes what I think was probably the right play, going for Volt Switch, anticipating the switch out from the Mamo, because Mamo is so important for the Zygarde, obviously. But Abe, being a pretty offensive player himself, anticipated that. He was able to take out the Rotom and preserve his Mamoswine, and that was really what made it tough for Greg to pull it out. He really almost did with that roll on the Mamoswine, or I guess it wasn't a roll, it was a very bulky Mamoswine that allowed it to live versus the Zygarde. But, you know, all those things being said, I think this ended up, you know, for those reasons being the closest game this week.
Yeah, it definitely, had the Zygarde been able to get up like a Dragon Dance sweep at the end, it could have gone a different way, but it ended up being able to, the Mamoswine surviving the extreme speed and getting that Ice Shard damage off.
Yeah, that was really clutch for sure. The next match is between the Texas Rangers, coached by Ancient League Productions, aka Randy, and the New York Clinks, coached by Papa C. Randy brought his Alolan Muck, his Meloetta, Tapu Koko, Hawlucha, his Jellicent, and Mega Scizor, while Papa C brought Weezing, Excadrill, Sylveon, Mega Pidgeot, Hoopa, and Manaphy. The Excadrill led off first versus Mega Scizor, and fearing a potential superpower, the Weezing comes in and takes the superpower pretty easily from Scizor. It goes for a Will-O-Wisp, trying to hit the Scizor. Meloetta switches in and dodges the Will-O-Wisp. Randy starts spamming Hyper Voice, which does about 35% of the incoming Sylveon. And there's a little bit of this switching game between Sylveon, Muck, Scizor. Sylveon's able to pass a Wish into a Weezing. Weezing then does land a burn on Meloetta the second time, but Meloetta, having already gotten critical damage off on that Sylveon before, is able to go for the combination of Hyper Voice and Psyshock to take that thing out. Pidgeot's going to come in, goes for U-turn versus the Meloetta, makes a nice prediction going into the Excadrill, anticipating the T-Bolt. What Papa C was not expecting is that the Meloetta would be packing Focus Blast, and Meloetta is able to click that and kill that drill cleanly. And with those two Pokemon out of the way, Tapu Koko from Randy's side is looking very threatening. Koko comes in versus Weezing, immediately kills the Gigavolt Havoc. Hoopa comes in, and not being a Scarf set, actually doubles out into the Pidgeot on the U-turn, so he's trying to scout for that. But Muck is able to come in on that Pidgeot and easily take Hurricanes, get off pivotal damage with Poison Jab. Pidgeot's going to U-turn into Manaphy. The Hydro Vortex coming out of the Manaphy does a decent bit of damage to Muck, but Muck does survive since it's packing the Assault Vest this week, and it does eventually die to a Surf. But that really cleans the way again for the combination of Koko and Hawlucha. Koko is able to kill the Manaphy with a T-Bolt. Hoopa dies to a U-turn, and then U-turn brings in the Hawlucha. And Hawlucha is able to kill the last Mon with Acrobatics, resulting in a 4-0 win for the Texas Rangers.
I really do like that offensive coverage that he has, because I was talking a little bit about it in fantasy with the Koko Hawlucha combination can be very devastating for certain teams that just don't have the right ways to deal with it.
Yeah, and Randy, you know, a lot of people were sort of poking fun at him for picking Koko #1, but he clearly is showing that he knows what he's doing with his Pokemon, so good for him for making that call in the draft.
Yep. So next up, we have Aster versus Magic. This game was 1 hour long. I hope to not make this recap 1 hour long. But the Memphis Grizzlies brought a roster of Landers T, Arcanine, Milotic, Mienshao, Jolteon, and Gardevoir, and the Montreal Hapsels had Cresselia, Salamence, Quillfish, Metagross, Infernape, and Umbreon. in that recap, I may as well just said the Memphis Grizzlies only had Melodic, but we will be getting into why that is the reason in a moment. So early on, we have an Infernape lead versus the Jolteon, and we see the incoming Landorus as the Infernape U-turns out to the Salamence, getting the Intimidate on the Landorus. Then Aster doubles into his Umbreon, predicting the Rock move, as his prediction was correct, as the Landorus goes straight away for the Continental Crush, not really doing a lot of damage to the Umbreon after the Intimidate. This is then followed by the Drizzlies sending in their Melodic. Now, this Melodic is on the field for the next 20 minutes or so of battle. So basically, to summarize what went down, Aster sets up quite a bit of hazards getting rocks and spikes, while he's getting burned and dragon-tailed by this Melodic. However, Aster is carrying both the Wish and the Heal Bell on Umbreon, so he's able to keep his Mons healthy and nullify what the Melodic is doing. The Melodic is able to use Recover, though, to keep itself healthy all around. So skipping past 30 turns of this, I'm serious, there were 30 turns of this, the Mienshao comes in versus the Umbreon, and right away we see the effects of the hazards that Aster was able to set up, as the Mienshao loses about 20% of its HP on switch-in. The Quillfish comes in to intimidate the Mienshao as it U-turns into the Arcanine, which then takes around 40% of its HP to the hazards. Showing Magic at this point, allowing all these hazards to get set up, was just not the best option, as the Umbreon comes in on the predicted Wild Charge, making the Arcanine take more damage from Recoil and Life Orb, and then the Arcanine almost knocks out the Umbreon with a Flare Blitz. However, the Umbreon is able to get a Wish and then Protect. He then goes into the Quillfish as the Arcanine goes for another Fire Blitz, and the Arcanine knocks itself out to Recoil. The Jolteon comes in and Volt Switches on the incoming Umbreon as the Jolteon Volt Switches into the Gardevoir. The Metagross comes out and takes a Moonblast, and they trade big damage with Bullet Punch and Shadow Ball, as the Metagross is able to knock out the Gardevoir with the following Bullet Punch, and then goes down to the incoming Mienshao, but not after getting a little bit of Bullet Punch damage on that as well. Aster is then able to force out the Mienshao with the Quillfish, intimidating it and whatnot. And then the Melodic comes back in for a few turns, dragon-tailing Aster's team around. Aster's at this point hoping that the Cresselia will get in from the Dragon Tail. Eventually, though, Aster is able to get the Cresselia in, I believe, as the Melodic goes for a Recover. And then the Cresselia sets up a sub and some Calm Minds, and is able to sweep the rest of the 4 Mons on Magic's team due to the hazards. And finally, this game ends with 2 minutes left on the timer.
Yeah, this was quite a doozy. If I'm not mistaken, a 5-0 victory for the Habsols.
Yep. And
I don't blame Aster for playing it safe. I think at virtually any point in that game, he could have brought in the Cresselia on the Melodic, set up a sub, and won the game. But on the off chance that Magic went for Toxic instead of Recover on a particular turn, it's not worth risking your win con like that. But that being said, that just that the set that he brought, the sub Calm Mind, was perfect. Nothing else that needs to be said about this. Magic, unfortunately, just due to the way this team's constructed, had no counterplay.
Yeah, the other thing that's worth mentioning, though, from Aster's perspective, I guess, it was a good call to get rid of both the Arcanine and the Gardevoir first, as either one of those probably could have broken a sub and then maybe, done damage to it or gotten off a Toxic or some status. So once those 2 Mons were down, there wasn't really any way of the sub being broken, and then anything that could status it, which I think the Melodic was the only thing carrying Toxic, was slower than the Cresselia, so it wouldn't have mattered anyways.
Yeah, definitely. And you're right, it's not worth taking those sorts of risks. So Aster, hats off to him for playing the game really well. Last but not least, we do have the Toronto Star Raptors, coached by Token Minority's Jolt, versus the Norwich Skitty, coached by Don Fanatic, aka Jack. Jolt brought his Mega Kangaskhan, Diancie, Tornadus T, Nidoqueen, Scolipede, and Mew. Meanwhile, Don Fanatic brought his Mega Lopunny, Crocodile, Staraptor, Latios, Registeel, and Skuntank. It's a bird versus bird lead as the Torn takes on the Staraptor. Staraptor does reveal his Choice Scarf and goes for a U-turn as Torn lands a Hurricane on the Skuntank for about 35% damage. Jack makes a nice play going for Pursuit on the switching Torn, but the Kangaskhan does come in and is able to pick up a kill with Return right away. So this Pokemon's already looking like quite a threat. Lopunny comes in, scaring out that Kangaskhan with the obvious fighting move, and Mew's able to come in and do Helmet Recoil to that Lopunny. Registeel comes in, but Mew is prepared to take on the Registeel as it goes for Taunt, and it's able to follow up with the Super Fang as Registeel goes for Seismic Toss, damaging itself in the process due to that Rocky Helmet. Now the Crocodile comes in for that Registeel as Mew goes for Super Fang again, getting off some nice damage, but Crook is going to click Pursuit and do nice damage to the Mew as Torn comes back in. Torn has the option to go for a nice U-turn here as the Registeel comes in, and Kangaskhan will be brought in from the U-turning Torn and kill the Registeel with a Fire Punch, so now that's kill number 2 for Kangaskhan. Lopunny comes in and clicks Drain Punch as Kang tries to catch it on a high jump kick with a Protect. Did not work out, but nice play all the same. And the Nidoqueen comes in now that the Mew is weakened and takes the Drain Punch rather easily. Goes for a Poison Jab, weakening the Latias that is switching in. And then the Torn is able to come in and go for a U-turn on that Lottie. Lottie isn't going to want to take that, and he switches into the Staraptor. And that brings in the Diancie, and a kind of surprising series of events occurs here. Diancie is going to go on to kill the Staraptor with Diamond Storm after taking close combat with ease. It's going to live the Energy Ball from Latios and kill with Moonblast. And because Diancie got a +2 defense boost from the Diamond Storm, is able to take on the Crook, kill it with Moonblast. The Crook did go for knockoff. I'm not sure if the Earthquake would have killed or not, but I think Jolt mentioned in his commentary it had a chance to survive even the Earthquake. So Diancie's going to end up with 3 kills in this exchange, which is pretty wild. Lopunny comes in, fakes at the Diancie. Mew switches in afterwards on the anticipated fighting move, dodges a high jump kick, but then does die to Return, dealing an overwhelming amount of recoil between those 2 turns. Scolipede is able to come in, clean up with the Poison Jab, and it's going to be a 5-0 win for the Toronto Staraptors. I think Jolt just did a good job of team building this game, and he was able to take on the bulky mons that Jack brought, and Kangaskhan just applying tremendous pressure throughout the whole game.
It was cool to see Kangaskhan actually, do some stuff this game. Obviously, in the other weeks, it was still like an important mon, but I don't believe it got any kills until this week, so it was cool to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really proving itself to be a force to be reckoned with, both in terms of applying team pressure and in terms of collecting kills.
It's definitely a monster, that and the little guy. Although I don't think the little guy helped out with either of the kills in this game. But
yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, I don't know. It's still cool to see. So moving on to the standings. Tied for first place, we have both the Montreal Habsels and the Toronto Staraptors, both 3-0, both at +11. They do go against each other this upcoming week, so that'll be awesome to see which one comes out on top. I don't think we've ever had in the GBA a point where 3 teams were undefeated with the same differential and then battling against each other. It'd be really cool to see who wins that. Then also for the playoff seeding, we have the Texas Rangers that are 2-1 with a +4 differential, and the Durham Dragons that are 2-1 with a +3 differential. Also 2-1 with a +3 differential, we have the Newcastle Umbreon. And then following that, we have the LA Coq Fable and the Rosa Radenborg, both 1-2 with a -1 differential. We have the Norwich Skitty, also 1-2 with a -6 differential. And then the Memphis Grizzlies and New York Lynx, both 0-3 with a -11 and -13 differential, respectively.
I'm really looking forward to this Week 4 match, like you mentioned. Both Aster and Jolt are top-tier players, and I'm sure that they're going to go out in their prep, and should be something to look forward to.
Yeah, that'll definitely be the match of the week. At least we hope.
Yes.
So moving on over to the league leaders, we have in the #1 spot Tapu Koko, which you did mention he was getting a little bit of flack for picking it so early on first or whatever. And it's first in the kill leaders, so maybe not maybe not such a bad choice after all. It is 6-1 currently. Then we have the Nihilego at #2, also with 6 kills but with 2 deaths. The Infernape at #3 with 5-0. The Cresselia is 5-1. Scolipede 5-2. Magearna also 5-2. Diancie 3-0. Aerodactyl 3-1. Megalade 3-1, and Jirachi 3-2.
So exciting week, a lot of powerful victories coming up from our coaches. We'll see if Week 4 ends up being more of the same, if more of the matches are closer to blowouts, or if we get some close 1-0s or 2-0s. Wait to find out on the next episode of Weekly Recap with CJ and Zilix. Zilix, do you have anything else to say to our adoring fans this week?
Hopefully week 4 lives up to the hype. I'll see you guys next time. Kiddings, bye.
All right. See you later, GBA fans.